I mean, how bad could it possibly be?
No, you said it now.
Okay, we are reading Eldunarya by Aragon S. Bromson. I guess it's an autobiography. With the war still raging, his brother still a slave to Galbatorix, and his master just slain, Aragon must work harder and mature faster to bring an end to this bloody war. This story was on Inheritance forums before it was hacked/virus bombed, and I have yet to see it re-uploaded, so here it is. Written by Aragon S. Bromson. It is rated T, has Aragon and Arya and Murtagh and Nasuada as the pairings. 121 chapters, 250,000 words, and it is complete.
Are you sure you want to start that myth? You gotta finish it.
It was all uploaded over the course of 3 days. Wait, no.
I will also
3 months.
There
it
is
looks like there's a sequel.
There is. I think it's longer.
No way.
The actual uploader's name is Naruto Hinata Fan FTW10.
What the fuck?
Yes, it is longer. It's 385,000 words.
Jesus Christ.
In 110 chapters.
If this guy just copied the entire stories, why did he separate them in chapters? Why not just put the whole thing?
No, it's looking like his entire account is just re-uploading other people's stuff.
Yeah.
To be fair, I can understand re-uploading a good story from a site that went down and you can never find it again.
It's when people are trying to upload currently updating stuff that you run into issues.
As long as they don't claim to have written it.
Yes.
Of course.
What if I want to claim that? I'm just kidding.
Then I feel very upset, especially when you have your own works.
Chapter 1. Closer? The waves crashed against the shore, but its endless wrath was not able to mask the sounds of gigantic wings of the enormous dragon. The dragon got closer to the shore, revealing itself to be a magnificent sapphire color. Thud. On its back was a human. No, an elf. No, a mixture of both races. He was quite handsome, tall, and rather muscular. He wore a plain light blue tunic, with a brilliant blue sword strapped to his belt. Thud. The dragon finally landed on the shore. The rider got off, his face fresh with the salty smell of the ocean. He sat down cross-legged under a tree, the only tree for miles around the steep shore, and began meditating, as he had been doing for the last 2 days. His name was Aragon Shadeslayer, rider of the dragon Saphira Brightscales. Aragon meditated, for he was surprised that life existed even there, beneath the sand. He had learned that sand was deposited on the shore by the ocean from the teachings of his master, Oramus. Master, your sacrifice shall not be in vain. Galbatorix will pay for his deeds. He will pay for all that he has taken from. Aragon, calm down. You are supposed to be meditating, not making promises, came an annoyed thought from Saphira. Sorry, I got carried away, Aragon replied. You always do, Saphira accused. Anyway, I'm going to hunt. It has been 2 days since I last ate a decent meal. I can't help it. Someone's coming. Even his mind is shielded. It's not a he, it's a she. Open your eyes. With that, she took off, as the other person came closer. Aragon opened his eyes and was happy and a little astonished to see the person. "Hello, Arya." Arya nodded in response and took her place next to him. They were both under the lone palm tree on the shore. It was the only tree for miles around. "How are you, Aragon? It's been 2 days and I haven't seen you in the camp. Is everything all right? What have you been doing these days?" Arya questioned. Someone clearly has never actually read Arya. "The same thing you have been doing, though in a little different manner," Aragon replied, his voice leveled and calm. "I have been mourning, but away from the camp, in harmony with nature. I and Saphira have been sleeping out here as well," he answered to Saphira's puzzled look. "I see." Arya's voice trailed off as she remembered the past events. It had been 2 days since she and Aragon had triumphed over the Shade Varog, who had been created by Galbatorix's pet magicians in a final drastic attempt to subdue the Varden. Aragon looked at Arya, concerned. She had suddenly gone pale and her eyes starting to fill with tears. Aragon watched as he tried to subdue her grief, and then rubbed her eyes to hide her overflowing tears like golden diamonds in the sunlight. "Arya, what's wrong?" Aragon finally dared to ask. "I just can't get myself to believe that Oramus and Glader are gone. It's just too much for me," Arya said, tears beginning to slide down her cheeks. "It's the same for me, but we have to be strong. We have to keep hope, for hope is the only thing that is keeping us on, keeping us fighting," Aragon said gently to her. "And love." "And love," Aragon replied, somewhat flustered and dismayed at her reaction. Arya continued to cry for a few minutes. Aragon placed a hand on her shoulder, fighting back tears himself. Though he knew that Glader was not dead, he resided in his heart of hearts. The dragon had been as good as dead. He had not contacted anyone, not replied to anyone's attempt to talk to him. "Can we ever find happiness in this time, Aragon? First my father, then Phelan, then Glenwing, now Oramus. It's just a matter of time before I lose someone else, like my mother. The shock and grief itself would kill me. Who would I have then?" Arya exclaimed, becoming extremely downtrodden with grief. "No, Arya, don't say that. Even I have lost a lot in this war, but I have not given up. How can you even say that? There is still hope. There is always hope. Don't give up, Arya, or you'll truly lose to that tyrant king. No matter what happens, Arya, I will always be there for you," Aragon stated gently but firmly, implying the meaning of each and every word. Without warning, Arya leaned forward and hugged him, her head on his chest, her emerald green eyes overflowing with tears, drenching Aragon's tunic. "I can't, Aragon, I can't. I have had enough." If Aragon was surprised, he didn't show it, but inside he was astonished to see the usually strong and powerful elf become distraught. He remembered that Arya had hugged him once before, during the Battle of Finster. Are we really growing close? Nah, there's no way for that. I better not keep my hopes up, and definitely not let Saphira learn of this. "Arya, be strong. Be strong like you used to be. Our work isn't done yet. We have to avenge our family members. We have to avenge our homes and our people. The fate of Alagasia rests on us, Arya. We cannot lose now. We must hold on. We must, Arya. At least I won't let the deaths of my father, Oramus, Hrothga, Ajihad, and my uncle go in vain. I will fight Galbatorix till either my dying day or his. Will you join me, Arya Shadeslayer?" Aragon looked at her after he finished talking. Arya looked up at him, eyes full of tears, and nodded with a determined face. "I will join you." "Pity you can't say that in front of a large group, little one. You wouldn't have spoken even half of that if Naswara had asked you to make a speech in front of all the Varden," commented Saphira. It's a rather boring first chapter. And a very out-of-character Arya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This seems more like one of those fanfics that are just bad, but not funny bad.
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing.
Yeah.
It's just kind of cringy bad.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't remember it very well.
I mean, I at
It's
least
not
will be
even
finishing
fully
it
written.
purely because I started it, but I don't think it's stream-worthy.
Nah.
What's plan B?
Pick something else from this list.
Online C++ compiler. Just kidding.
I need to remove that, actually. It doesn't serve any use anymore. Haven't used StreamYard in a while, either.
Yeah. We play people's games? What is this?
That was that Harry Potter fic we looked at.
How about
It's admittedly cringe. Like, it's intentionally cringe.
Oh, okay.
And
how
apparently
about
a sequel.
the Lord Hand?
The Honorable Lord Hand. Alright. We'll
Yeah,
do
seems
that.
interesting.
Jon Snow, Marjorie, Cersei,
So,
Jaime, Renly, Loras, and Cersei, Jon.
Whoa.
What?
Cersei, Jon? Whoa. Calm down, story.
If that area occurs as anything but a rape, there's something wrong here.
What's the summary?
Well, I'll get there. Let's look at the additional tags.
The
Crack.
author regrets nothing.
The author regrets nothing. What was I thinking? The author regrets everything. No attempt has been made to impose modern values in a medieval world. Allusions to suicide. It is only 9,300 words and 7 chapters. We can knock this out tonight.
If nothing else, I can respect the no attempt has been made to fit modern values in a medieval world.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, that's very rare. The fact that he bangs both Marjorie and Cersei within 9,000 words, though.
Did
Well,
you say 9 or
it-
90?
It's 9,300.
Oh yeah, we can knock this out easy.
Yeah. And there's no guarantee that it actually gets to any of the relationships
Tags, yeah.
in the what's written.
Hey, at least it doesn't say Jamie, Cersei,
Before
Jon.
they actually do it. Sorry?
And it's clearly abandoned as well. Hasn't
Yeah.
updated since the end of March 2014.
I've seen stories come back after that long, to be honest. It's very rare, but
But-
I've seen it happen.
Being updated over a course of 10 days and then
Yeah. But Cetrus, what I said was at least it's not Cersei, Jamie, and Jon.
Oh god.
True.
Oh god, no, please.
That does get a bit close to home though, because I did like 60,000 words in like 3 weeks and then haven't updated for like 3 months.
The Honorable Lord Hand by Basilius. A less naive Ned Stark and a more cooperative Varys together in King's Landing, and the fate of Westeros changes irreversibly. Inspired by Oberyn Martell, first of his name,
Wait,
by
what?
Smith.
No, is that an Oberyn becomes the king fanfiction? Oh my god.
Once I finish reading this note, I will check it out and see what the summary is.
Alright.
I have recently gotten a lot of flack over my perceived anti-Stark approach. Though I confess, I am somewhat baffled by that. I mean, I'm merely taking a cue from the author whose work we are inspired by. Arguably, I have been kinder than George R. R. Martin himself. But a wonderful AU idea did come up. Let us have a slightly less naive Lord Eddard and a bit more cooperative Varys. Add to it my crazy imagination, and boom! You have my first crack fic. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present the most not-so-honorable Lord Stark. Enter Dark Ned.
Oh, God.
Dark Ned, hell yeah.
Okay, let's see what this Oberyn Martell first of his name is about.
But Dark Ned.
Crack, what if, the author regrets nothing, fic-lit collection. Oh, this one's only 900. Not even 1,000 words in 2 chapters. By sheer accident, the Red Viper becomes the king of the 7 kingdoms. Then stuff happens.
Okay. Yeah.
Oberyn is a great character, but he should never sit on any type of throne.
Right? We'll add this one on to the end of the stream, because it's less than 1,000 words.
Okay.
But now, enter Dark Ned. Chapter 1, The Dutiful Hand. Lord Eddard wonders where his genius plan failed him. I own nothing. Greatly inspired by Cloudy's work. 298 AL, King's Landing.
AL.
After landing.
But it's AC.
Look, don't think about it.
I mean, yes, but no.
In the original universe.
Okay.
Technically, in universe, they don't use those kind of abbreviations at all.
Yes, they do. Have you not read The World of Ice and Fire?
I have not.
It's
Wow,
supposed
imagine
to,
reading that.
and they do use that.
Okay, I stand corrected. They don't use it in the books, though.
Wait, no, you're sitting down. Don't lie to me.
What?
You said I stand corrected.
I am standing for your information.
Oh,
I'm impressed that myth can even still stand.
Why? Why are you impressed?
You know exactly why.
I don't.
Are you referencing the me getting hit by a car? Or are you...
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I am impressed that I'm standing too. I thought maybe you were referencing that I might have gotten drunk before the stream, but no. I do my drinking during the stream.
Hey, what a coincidence. Me too.
I went ahead and did it before the stream.
Well, thought Lord Stark, that had not exactly gone as I had planned. He, Renly, and the Tyrell men had seized the keep within moments of Robert dying. But Renly had to try to act the hero and got stabbed to death by Selmy. The old...
Okay.
First paragraph.
Right off the bat! The old man had nearly been killed by the Tyrell Knights. And Ned had barely been able to save... What the fuck? I call bullshit.
Seriously, Selmy would have cut through.
His death would have been a great loss. Except he killed your
It would
king.
stop the story from using him.
What?
I said no, it wouldn't. It would stop the story from using Selmy.
Except he killed your king, trying to defend those Lannister bastards, muttered his not-so-honorable voice. What are you going to give to the Tyrells now, after their good son got himself killed? He tried to squish that voice, but found he could not, to his horror. Jon Arryn would not be too happy, except, as the voice was quick to remind him, Jon Arryn was dead, and he was only alive precisely because of that voice.
Wait.
Oh no, Ned listens to the voices in his head.
Their good son, is Renly already married to Marjorie in this?
Apparently.
Or is he married to Loras?
According to this, I think it's Loras.
So they are inserting modern values.
I mean, maybe, but they killed off the gay character in the first paragraph, so...
You know what? That's a good point.
If they did that in a new TV show, the only gay character in the show killed off within the first 5 minutes.
That would be taken off the air so fast.
Yes.
Also hilarious.
Yes, it would be hilarious. But SJWs wouldn't stand for it.
No.
Thank the old gods for that. I do not know what I would have done otherwise had I tried to be Honorable Lord Stark of the North. Probably told Cersei that I knew her secret, of course, or told Robert that she had spiked his wine, or trust Baelish, or maybe ask Catelyn to kidnap the imp should she run into him. But Ned didn't ask Catelyn to do that. She did that on her own impulse. And then he just claims the credit for it to, help her, I guess?
Man's duty to defend his wife.
Yeah. He shuddered, though it still hurt to think of Robert. He wished it wasn't necessary, but it very much was.
Wait, this paragraph makes him complicit in Robert's death.
Yep.
Oh my god.
So this is less, morally ambiguous Ned as it is straight up the opposite of Ned.
Yes, it is dark Ned.
That's so weird.
Very.
So dark.
He had tried to be a good hand, and though disappointed by Robert's absence from the small council, had tried to do the best he can. He had asked for the accounts, as was his custom, and the fool Baelish had expected him to be another uneducated lord who did not know sums. He hadn't been able to sleep for a week after realizing the full extent of the crown's fiscal woes. Robert's extravagance was certainly a factor, but after going over it with a fine-toothed comb, he had detected a lot of corruption too, which the Master of Coin must have known about.
There's a lot to unpack in that.
So, all lords are educated.
Yep.
And they have to know their sums.
There's a few that didn't in the story, but it was very few.
Yeah, they are the exception, not the rule.
I know. Him being able to figure out Baelish's bookkeeping.
Does make sense if he's been doing his own finances for the whole time.
No, because he wouldn't necessarily be familiar with how Baelish has written things down.
Not just that, Baelish is literally supposed to be the biggest expert in the Seven Kingdoms on how to manage money.
Yeah.
Also, we do know from canon that it was pretty much Robert's extravagance, and Baelish was just skimming a little.
Yeah, Baelish's skimming was barely noticeable compared to Robert's extravagance.
Yeah, and he generally put it through different things for the crown to make sure.
Yeah. Baelish would not have gotten as far as he did if a new hand just looking over the books would be able to catch him out.
He wouldn't have even given him the real books.
That too.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Look, guys, Ned is smart, okay? He found this out because he's really good.
Oh god, wall of text.
Holy
Damn.
shit!
Like this,
Oh my god!
this covers more than my screen can hold.
Say it all without taking a single breath.
Absolutely
Oh.
fucking not. This is not King of Magic.
Able to.
It's also not all one sentence. I can already see at least one period.
I mean, you need to stop.
And that fool Baelish had wanted me to trust him about that dagger. After all this? Wait, that's not a question, it's just a statement. He had strictly forbidden Catelyn from listening to a word Baelish said, in private, of course, and sent her off on a ship to White Harbor, just in case she ran into the imp and did something rash if she traveled along the land route.
Because he's privy to what Tyrion's doing at all times.
Well, it does make sense for her to expect them to cross paths, because Tyrion would be returning from the Wall.
Fair enough.
The only question is, where would they cross paths?
I mean, yes and no. For all Ned knows, Tyrion is taking a ship
That's also a possibility.
or going to another kingdom, or there's a lot of ways they couldn't have crossed paths.
But the reasonable assumption would be that he's returning to King's Landing via the King's Road.
I actually would have expected ship. It would have been easier on Tyrion as a travel method.
True. But yeah, this is... However, even just ignoring this part, it does make sense to have Catelyn return via ship.
Does it? That's actually a more dangerous form of travel.
And there's the possibility that somebody can put a spy on the boat.
True. I guess so.
Is it that dangerous?
Yes.
Robert's parents died at sea.
Not just that, the Seven Kingdoms are plagued by pirates.
That too.
More so
good
than
point.
just the Ironborn.
I was thinking of bandits on the roads and that, but yeah, you're right.
No, it's not just the Ironborn.
I said more so than just the Ironborn.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Stepstones are literally a haven for hundreds of pirate captains.
He had found out about the bastards soon enough, thanks to Varys, who ironically was the most honorable man in the whole council. After himself, of course. What? What?
As in, after himself, of course.
What about Stannis?
Look, Stannis isn't honorable, okay?
Stannis turned tail and ran to Dragonstone, remember?
Yep, because he's a pussy. Without honor.
That's obviously why this Ned chose to support Renly over Stannis. Still, he had not trusted Varys, had his food and drink carefully examined daily, and had carefully checked the whole thing himself. After discovering what were the What?
That's not how you check for poison. Ned wouldn't know shit about examining for poisons.
I mean, he could have gotten himself a cupbearer to test his food. That's a little too paranoid, though. For someone like Ned. After discovering what were the results of the Queen's affection for her brother, he had spent a week thinking. But the answer was clear. He had not wasted good northern blood to secure the throne for another Aegon the Unworthy, and observe him bankrupt the realm while drinking himself to death. Or pave the way for Aerys III. He shuddered when he thought of Joffrey. A dog off the streets would do better, and was glad that he was not going to be his good son. Sansa will not be happy, but he had her under constant observation ever since the incident with the wolves. He was aware of her meeting with Cersei, had encouraged it even, for who else could he feed false information to pass to Cersei?
Using his daughter. What a guy.
Oh. I wonder if her wolf is still alive.
We'll see, I guess.
We'll operate on yes until we find out otherwise.
Poor Sansa will be very unhappy to know that she had been lied to for so long. But I am not giving you a chance to complain. You are marrying Small John Umber as soon as we get back.
What?
And going to the
Small
last
John
hearth.
Umber?
As far north as I can possibly send you.
What? Small John? What a fucking pairing.
Sansa x Small John.
Oh my god.
Could at least give her Domeric or some shit.
Now, the real question is, why was he named Small John?
Because his father is already named Great John.
Because he had
could have
tiny
been
BB,
regular John.
that's why.
Am I remembering correctly that Small John is actually bigger than Great John?
He is by like an inch, and he's... Zero, the fact that you didn't include the Great John heavily in your story saddens me.
You want me to rewrite it?
God, no.
Not until you at least finish it.
There we go. But the Great John is just so awesome.
Contacting Renly had been the only way out. He needed men if he was to dispose of both Robert and the Lannisters, and someone to place on the throne. He's not only complicit, he orchestrated it.
Wow.
Look, he's the best, okay? You gotta accept it.
He would have preferred Stannis, but Renly could get men from Highgarden thanks to his relationship with Loras Tyrell.
His relationship.
It had been simple. He had arranged Renly's marriage to Marjorie and had Tyrell men pour into the city. They had left, of course, to accompany Renly to Storm's End. Except Varys had them all sneak back in. They were all hiding in the city the entire time. When Varys told him about Cersei poisoning the wine, he had laughed, for that removed the need to eliminate Robert himself. The boar had done a fair job. He had to admit, although he was sad to lose his oldest friend. All for the realm. I swore to be a good hand, and I am. What I want to know, he's planning all of this.
Yeah.
Disposing of Robert, like, why not just send for John to begin with?
I'm gonna need you to get all the way off my back.
Unclear.
Seizing the castle had been a simple affair, and catching Jaime and Cersei in bed had been an unexpected pleasure.
What?
All of them were in the black cells, under constant watch. Renly would have had them executed, and I should, but we need a king first. Barristan getting Renly had been a slight hiccup, to put it mildly. Stannis already hated him, and wasn't going to take news of this coup well, especially if someone let slip he wanted Renly on the throne, The man had cut off the fingers of the Onion Knight, who had saved his life. No, Lord Stark thought. Certainly not Stannis. If only out of his sense of self-preservation. Why does Stannis hate Ned?
He doesn't.
Powers. He knows he kills the.
Like-
knows he killed his brother. What I don't get is we're expected to believe that they took the castle so quietly that they were still in bed together when they found them.
You know, maybe they're just very loud when they go to work.
What I don't get is Jaime was not stated to have killed anyone when they captured him.
Right? Like, even
Well, he
caught
was
with
naked.
even caught with his pants down, he should have killed at least someone.
With what weapon?
His bare
Dude.
hands.
Maybe
Yep.
Cersei wouldn't unwrap her legs.
I mean,
You know
the
what?
Great Khan took 8 Freys to put him down while he was unarmed, and he killed 3 of them.
Unarmed and drunk off his ass.
Yes, and so drunk he could barely see straight.
Dude has great in his name. Probably for a reason.
That could have been his giant's blood showing through.
I'll give you that.
The Red God will be enough of an excuse. Just what I need to turn Stannis into a Maegor. But then who? One of Robert's bastards? He shuddered. His son will have to do the same thing in 20 years. Valerian? Doran Martell? Both have enough dragon blood to be king. But they are married, and I need to appease the Tyrells right now. They won't accept a Dornish king. And Valerian has no son of the right age for Renly's widow. Damn it
Here I
all.
come.
He briefly considered taking the Tears of Lys for himself, after telling Robb to secede and be done with the Seven Kingdoms. The idea was looking rather attractive, if only that each passing moment created a risk that Tywin would find out and create trouble. I need the Tyrells to throw off the Lannisters, until Robb can get here. He had already asked his son to call the banners and march south, to defend the Riverlands from Tywin. He had poured himself some wine and was contemplating how long it would take for him to hit the surface from the top tower when Varys entered the room. Why so glum, my lord? I need a king, Lord Varys, preferably unwed. Any suggestions? The obvious choice is your nephew.
I like how he just.
Of course, Varys already knows.
Here's a thought. Cersei has been caught in the middle of adultery and imprisoned, and yet she's still paired with Jon.
Right? Like, what's going on there?
You know, maybe he'll pay her a visit in prison.
Or
Let's
maybe Jon brings back the Targaryen custom of taking 2 wives to appease Tywin Lannister.
You know
That's
what?
the name.
Or am I putting too much thought into this?
You might.
I mean,
be.
you would think he would still take Tywin Lannister's not Tywin, Cersei's daughter. What's her name?
Myrcella?
Myrcella.
Yeah, as opposed to Cersei herself.
But Myrcella is a bastard.
Yep.
Cersei is trueborn.
Also,
Good
yeah.
point.
Wine flew out of Eddard Stark's mouth. How? Aloud he stammered, What? Don't act silly, Lord Stark. Do you think I was helping you for assisting Renly? Realization dawned on him. You told Renly where Joffrey was sleeping, didn't you? So that Barristan got him, sparing me the task. What have you done with Stannis? Lord Valerian is on it, as is Lord Celtigar and a few others. Suffices to say, the fish around Dragonstone probably got a good meal today. The girl in the east? Daenerys? She will be taken care of. She was a backup in case all failed. Revulsion rose up his throat. Killing her. Who said kill? Simply remove the dragon eggs from her. You gave her what?
Wait. The optimal course would be Jon marrying Daenerys.
Yep.
Yes. But that gets in the way of Jon, Marjorie, and Jon, Cersei.
No, it doesn't. Just make it 3 people.
But if Varys knew this, like if Varys knew that Jon was a Targaryen and being raised by Ned, who's very honorable, he would have given the dragons to him. Because having an honorable king is something he would be after.
Yes.
Depends on the version of Varys.
If we've got the everything for the realm version of Varys, yes. If we've got the plotting to put his friend's son on the Iron Throne version of Varys.
Friend? Son, wouldn't it? Not Daenerys.
Wait, what's your question?
Friend or lover?
Unclear.
It's to give him to Daenerys.
No, I meant Cetrus's question.
Ah.
Yeah, what was your question, Cetrus? I didn't hear it.
I don't think in any circumstance it makes sense for him to give dragon eggs to Daenerys.
It makes sense in that nobody thought the dragon eggs would ever hatch.
Yeah, that's fair.
It also makes sense in that Varys was not the one that did it.
Yeah, that one was Illyrio.
Yeah, and it wasn't like something they planned together. It was just a shitty wedding gift.
Much. I just like in this, it had Varys with the eggs or whatever, so I just thought it wouldn't make sense for him to give it to Daenerys anyway.
And since he's moving them, obviously Jon is going to hatch them.
Obviously. It was a backup, which will not be necessary anymore. His Grace will need them much more. You seem sure they have not hatched, considering the great distance in between. Because I ordered their removal as soon as I realized you had more brains than your foster father. They are here, in the keep now.
Oh, okay. Solving all the issues.
Wow.
I feel bad for Daenerys.
Yeah.
He's apparently a psyker. He can see the future.
I mean, Dany's dead now.
Yeah, she's not going to survive the Khal Drogo's pyre now.
I mean, she might survive. It won't be in a position she wants to.
Yeah, she still wouldn't burn, but
No.
she would probably get...
Oh, she would burn.
In the books, the only reason that she didn't burn in that scenario was because it was a ritual to hatch the dragons.
It was a once in 1,000 years, according to George, lifetime event.
Yeah. She is not fireproof like in the show.
Also, she would probably, in this scenario, not walk into the flames since the magic ritual would not compel her to.
That too.
And she would probably end up...
She would end up part of the Dosh Khaleen.
Yep.
Either that or a pleasure slave for another pal.
She was a Khaleesi. She would be brought back to the Dosh Khaleen. I got the feeling that the Dothraki were very strict on that part.
True. True enough.
You played me all along. I never intended to hurt you. Besides, you have to admit, this is the best solution. everyone will be happy save Tywin. But who cares about him?
This is not a good solution.
Who cares about Tywin, though?
Jon has no training to be king. He got a lesser version of Rob's training to be a great lord, but he has no training in politics or any of the things that would be required to rule the realm.
It's okay. He's probably a little like Rising Sun John. He probably read it in a book.
I mean, I guess that's what the small council is for. That's the way Robert used them.
Yeah. I mean, and a good king would listen to their advisors when they didn't know what to do. So.
True, but a good king also at least knows enough to settle on a decision.
Yeah.
The advisors are there to give them options.
I bet he's gonna be an amazing king.
Most likely.
I mean, obviously.
He's
Why
gonna be
wouldn't
so
he?
awesome.
He was raised by the honorable Lord Hand.
Hell yeah.
His grace is still unwed, and I think the Rose of Highgarden will not be a bad fit. If he has already sworn himself to the Watch. Lord Valerian promised 12 men to the Lord Commander to stop him from swearing in. If that failed, Mace Tyrell will offer 200 men.
200?
If that means he has grandchildren with dragon blood.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, it's just send people into slavery.
Just. Like.
Imagine being a Tyrell guard. Like, you're just trying to send money to your mom or some shit just to keep her alive, and then the Lord shows up and he's like, you're going to the wall and you're going to swear everything off.
You 200 men. You're all going to the wall. What?
Wow.
But we like it here.
Honestly, it sounds like a good way for your men to turn on you and shank you.
Yeah, exactly.
I doubt the Tyrells have 200 prisoners to send to the wall.
Yeah, that'd probably be the only way this would actually happen. With prisoners.
Maybe some, like a handful of volunteers. But most of it would be prisoners.
Maybe you could take a collection of like all the other lords and get all their prisoners.
That's what the Night Watch does anyway.
Yeah.
And not in the most effective way.
Don't
they were effective.
Don't they only have one brother traveling the Seven Kingdoms collecting?
Yeah, Yoren.
Yeah.
Until he dies, and then
Yes.
Until
he
it's
dies.
nobody.
My approval doesn't matter, does it? It would certainly be helpful, but not necessary. Lord Valerian should already be on the route to White Harbor and then to the Wall. A letter from the Lord Hand to the Lord Commander explaining the changed circumstances will certainly help matters. We are also getting Maester Aemon from the Wall for the coronation. Invitations to Essos have already been sent. Lord Mace will meet you in 3 hours to finalize the betrothal between his daughter and your nephew. Just casually taking Maester Aemon from the Wall.
Yep.
Check out Smurf's latest meme. Muslim prostitute marries her clients for an hour in order to have sinless sex.
Cool.
Isn't divorce a sin in that religion too?
Apparently not.
It's a contentious topic.
Okay.
My understanding of it is the divorce itself is not a sin. It is getting remarried that is a sin, because divorce, God does not recognize divorce, so getting remarried is committing adultery.
Either way, then the prostitute's business model doesn't work.
It never did.
I mean, the average prostitute's business model obviously works. They're not the oldest profession in existence for nothing.
You know what this reminds me of? The sailor's wife from A Song of Ice and Fire.
Oh god, I remember reading that theory.
I wasn't talking about the theory.
I am. I don't know.
We are also... Oh, I already read that.
Why not? It's not a bad theory.
What am I getting out of this? You are still Hand, of course, and his grace will certainly be generous in offering the spoils to his supposed brothers and sisters, from what I know of him. Gods, Arya is never going to marry at this rate. I know who John will hire to the King's Guard first. What?
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 Yeah, Arya wants to be a Queen's Guard.
No!
Modern values.
Look,
Yeah, okay, yes, John supports Arya learning how to fight. That does not mean John would stand in the way of Ned arranging a marriage for her.
Nor does it mean he would put Arya, who in no world would ever be a match for the greatest knights in the realm in a straight fight, on the King's Guard, which is comprised of knights.
Yes.
Yeah, just because he wants her to learn how to fight doesn't mean he wants her actually to fight.
Yes.
So
But-
true.
but Sir Brienne. Yeah. Season 8. Sir Brienne.
No.
Boo.
Fucking Brienne Wank in that show was ridiculous.
Like, I like Brienne, but yeah,
She's a
you're
bit
right.
as a fighter. That's about it.
She
She's
cannot
basically
be
Diet.
worse. She cannot be worse than the current lot. The current lot, which includes Sir Barristan the Bold.
Jaime Lannister, Aerys Oakheart, even Boris was supposed to be dangerous.
Yeah, like, yes, the current lineup did not measure up to Aerys' King's Guard,
Very
But
few of
they-
them did.
but they were still all formidable warriors.
Not all of them.
Most of them.
Meryn Trant was not a formidable warrior.
I tend to forget about him. Which is telling.
Yeah.
That is true, I suppose. Bring whatever letters you already have prepared so that I can sign off. I promised the boy I will tell him about his mother when we meet next. I guess it will just have to be the moments before coronation. The lords of the Crown Lands are with us?
Did he just say he was going to tell John?
He's gonna tell John who his mother is, literally right before he gets coronated.
Yes, that can't go wrong at all.
Well, it's not.
I mean, the first thing that an impulsive John might do is force Ned to take the black as punishment for that.
Nah, John won't do that.
Maybe not for hiding, like, his heritage and everything, but John would want to sentence Ned to the wall if he found out everything that Ned has done as hand.
Want to, he would need to.
Yeah, need to. Right. He wouldn't like having to do it, but he would.
I don't know. After finding out that truth, you might feel vindictive glee at first.
True. Certainly, Your Grace. With them in the Reach, we can hold off Tywin till your son gets here. Where did my mouse go? There it is. I'm also writing to Robb to go with Valerian to the wall, just so that there is nothing fishy going on. We also need to send Jaime Lannister's head to Dorne, and promise
What?
that Tywin's just to ensure their neutrality. I hope my
What?
good father can delay Tywin long enough for the Northmen to get here.
What?
What?
Why would they want Jaime's head?
Why?
Oberyn doesn't give a shit about Jaime or Cersei. Neither does Doran.
Why does he have Jaime's head? Like, why has Jaime already been executed?
Has he been executed?
That's what it sounds like.
I mean,
I don't think he has. It sounded like he was imprisoned earlier.
yeah.
It said that Cersei was imprisoned. I don't think
I'm
it
pretty
said
sure
that
it said
Jaime.
both of them.
Yeah, I thought it said both of them. But wait, is he gonna kill Jaime without a trial?
You don't need a trial.
Jaime is one of the highest knights in the realm. If anyone has the privilege of trial by combat, he does.
Oh yeah.
He won't get that.
I don't know. If I was the king, I wouldn't be giving the best knight in the realm trial by combat.
You don't
I mean,
have an
just
option.
letting him get away with everything.
You don't have an option. It's every knight's sworn right to have a trial by combat if they request it.
Unless the
Unless you kill
king
him.
decides that
Yeah, if you let him
the
request it.
trial by combat is no longer a thing.
No, that was only in the show.
It's still a possibility.
Trial by combat is one of the religious rites of the seven.
Down with the 7.
I don't dispute that.
Hell yeah, breaking the faith. Yeah.
Let's read the comments before moving on.
Alright.
Please, for the love of all things good, continue this and don't leave it. I cannot tell you how much this pairing fascinates me, and how many more stories I would like to read of it. Keep it up. Great job.
You haven't even seen the pairing.
Which pairing? Renly and Loras? Sorry, one is dead. JK, this will be a fun one to explore. It is unadulterated crack. John Marg will be interesting, though.
I read that as John Impreg.
Although the question of who is really wearing the pants will be an intriguing issue.
What?
Alicent Hightower II is queen.
Isn't Alicent Y and S instead of I and C?
I don't
Why
know.
would you prefer her to Alicent? Alicent was a shit.
I absolutely love this. John and Marge are one of those crack pairings that I love to think about. Considering Marge was raised to be a queen, and John never expected to be in the position he's about to be in. I'd love to hear about Kat's reaction to this. Once again, loved
Oh,
your first
God.
chapter, and I hope to see more. John may not have expected the position, but he was raised the same way as the firstborn of Lord Practical Stark. So despite an induction period, he will fit in quite well.
He did not have all the lessons as Rob.
Cat's reaction. She is not getting Castamere this time. But she won't be too happy. We will see. Thanks for commenting. Yeah, I know John was taught alongside Rob, because I do remember those lessons helped John in A Dance with Dragons with dealing with Stannis, if I'm remembering correctly. With Cat and the Tullys, I have never been a big fan of theirs, so it didn't bother me with what happened to them in your other fics. Anyway, I'm eager to see more. My point was less honorable/practical Ned. Similar John. Let's see what happens. Pure crack, so I am making it up as I go.
So is he saying he's trying to make this Ned similar to John in the books? If so, he failed.
I don't know.
You know what's weird? They're treating it like John/Marjorie is crack when it's like one of those.
That's not a crack pairing.
That's
a fairly popular pairing.
Not just that. It's like that's one of the pairings people will just instantly go for because it's got those Aladdin/Princess Jasmine vibes. You know,
yeah.
the street rat with the queen.
I like him. I like Ariana as a pairing for him better.
I mean, sure.
Yeah, this is pretty hard crack. Glad to know you appreciate. Thanks for the comment. Yes, this pleases me. You may proceed. Ahem. I was cackling the whole way through it, especially about Renly getting himself stabbed. There's a joke somewhere here, it is known.
Oh god.
It's really good. Please do continue. Heh, it looks like Marjorie will get to be the queen after all. Jaehaerys III, confused Targaryen. Okay, now we need Sam and Randall Tarly to meet, and all will be well with the world. Until Winter War Z, trademark.
Wait, what? Sam and Randall Tarly to meet. You need to add John in there.
Do you though?
Glad to have your approval. This is completely different in style from my other works, smiley face. Renly getting stabbed was not intentional, but noticed it and decided to keep it, for it is known. Queen Marjorie is coming up, although Lord Ned still has some headaches left. Jaehaerys III might be the unexpected, but not clueless. He was raised the same way as the firstborn son of Lord Pract-Eddard Stark. You just read my mind. Sam was going to play a role, soon. Very soon.
As will his fat pink mast.
God. Man,
yes?
you're always bringing up Sam's fat pink mast. Is there is there something that you need to tell us?
No. That it's one of the biggest memes on any Reddit about the Song of Ice and Fire.
That was a
I mean,
very long pause.
You're always bringing it up, so
I'll make sure to bring up the vivid descriptions of women's nipples next time.
He had already asked his son to call the banners and march south to defend the Riverlands from Tywin. I'm starting to love your Ned. Nothing like a backhanded insult of well-meaning help. It's not that we don't trust you, Riverlords, to keep the Riverlands safe. It's just that, well, we don't trust you to not fuck all tits up. Everyone will be happy save Tywin, but who cares about him? The irreverent tone is awesome. I can almost see Varys all soft silk and powdered hands, with that smile on his chubby face when he said that. What am I getting out of this? Mercenary Ned, what a novel idea, smiley face. I hope my good father can delay Tywin long enough for the Northmen to get there. Heh, another one. Ned is on the roll here. Disclaimer, A Song of Ice and Fire belongs to George R. R. Martin. Oh, Maki!
Oh, God.
Oberyn patted the severed head of Kingslayer and smiled fondly before sipping his wine. You know what? This northern barbarian isn't so bad. I'm starting to like this new hand of the king. Oberyn once more patted the head. He has a certain flair. Ariane looked in distaste at the rotting head. There was also a gleam of satisfaction in her dark eyes. Yes, so we've been hearing for the last 2 days. But could you remove the head from the table? The flies are getting a bit much, and I think I see a maggot in the nostril. Prince Doran Nimros Martell wanted nothing more than to get up and smack Oberyn like he did when they were younger. Alas, his sick legs couldn't carry him much these days, so he restricted himself to giving a nod to Ariel Hota, who promptly smacked Oberyn upside his head. Gods, it was good to have loyal servants. Doran waited until Oberyn stopped choking on his wine and only thee spoke. Take that filth from my table, said Doran calmly, and stop gushing over Eddard Stark like a Tully on her wedding day.
Wow.
Next one will be about Ghost John and dragon eggs. The Riverlands are near indefensible in the best of cases, and Ned has grave doubts about Hoster's competence, having outsourced his defense to North and Vale for decades.
What?
Oh, this is the author talking, by the way.
Hoster, then very competent.
Hoster is probably the Lord Paramount with the worst control over his bannermen, Freys, etc. You have to buy their support. Even Bolton did not dare openly defy Robb Stark till the end, to say nothing of the near monolithic grip of Tywin, or even Lysa in keeping the Vale out of war. Yep, it was fun to imagine the who cares about Tywin moment. Smiley face. Ned is not exactly mercenary, but it is like you're giving everyone something. What are your plans for me? Ned has no illusions about what Hoster, etc. can do. Robb has to bail them out, but he will probably send Tarly too. The Omaki. Oh my god, I'm stealing the idea for a Dorne scene. Seriously, you should start writing, you know? Smiley face. It was so fantastic. I might even steal all other aspects. Tully on her wedding day, Ruffle. Really want to see the next Omaki. Have a go at the Omaki if you want. So what about Benjen? Is he staying at the Wall? I mostly write for myself, but time is my worst enemy as I rarely have as much as I'd like.
So, I'm getting the feeling that we can read this author's actual stories and be just as amused.
So,
What do you mean actual stories?
Let's actually check out
ones?
the rest of their stuff. They have multiple pseudonyms. Okay, let's... First of her name, and Ashara Dane Ned Stark, Ashara Dane Don Cunnington.
What?
Fim Jon Snow OC. Joffrey Stannis, Sansa, Daisy Robb, Lyanna Rhaegar. Or a world where Rhaegar Targaryen was right about one thing he was wrong in canon. A world that never was. Well, this one's part of a series. Rhaegar Targaryen wins the Trident, but Lyanna still dies, and the centrifugal forces still overwhelm Westeros. And pale shadows of greater men and women of the past are all the Targaryens have to avoid total annihilation, while the Game of Thrones continue. Set in the Weirwood and Volcanoverse, Lyanna's son has silver hair and violet eyes. There's the one we're reading. If winter comes, can spring be far behind?
Yes.
In Westeros?
In Westeros, yes.
All I can think of is Winds of Winter and then Dream of Spring.
Right?
Yes, it can be very far behind.
In Westeros,
What?
people could live their entire lives without seeing spring.
Indeed. They can also live their entire lives without seeing winter.
We can also
So
live our entire lives without seeing the next book.
I hope not.
Burn.
Duskendale had been his finest hour, yet the memory tasted bitter on his tongue. Or a world where Sir Barristan fails at Duskendale, and Tywin Lannister underestimates a woman to his peril. Rhaegar Targaryen, first of his name, ascends to the Iron Throne at the young age of 17, and the different Westeros follows. The Weirwood and the Volcano, the world of Jaehaerys III Targaryen.
That's not a young age for him to ascend to the throne, to be honest.
No, it's not. Jaehaerys III Targaryen may have succeeded in gaining the Iron Throne, but he still has to cling on for 7 decades. History, too, cannot be ignored while dealing with a king almost maniacally obsessed with the past. This is a series of one-shots about the characters in Westeros, from the Weirwood on the Volcanoverse, from the past, present, and future. 1 AL to 750 AL.
Oh no.
Series of one-shots, 2 chapters. The Weirwood on the Volcano. Westeros does not truly recover from the violent end of the Targaryen dynasty, the disintegration of the Seven Kingdoms. I dropped my mouse. Westeros did not truly recover from the violent end of the Targaryen dynasty. The disintegration of the Seven Kingdoms starts long before the War of the Five Kings. The gods had tossed a coin once, and the realm pays for it. Yet the gods may choose to toss another coin once more, which might shatter the realm again, or give it its one chance of salvation. AU. What does his other account have? It only has a single work. The Long Road Home. Stories of another world, where Jon Snow is born a girl with violet eyes, and Ashara Dane births a son instead of a stillborn daughter. Or a quest by 2 bastards to find a place to call home, while trying to understand who they are, escaping the Game of Thrones however is possible. And in the end, you either win or you die, even if that involves kinslaying or unleashing the beast within. Previously called The Road to the Throne. Please read the note at the first chapter if you are a returning reader. Okay, let's get back to the story. There were some long comments. I'm not reading them all.
Yes, I do feel those stories would be just as cracked as this.
Yes. The loving uncle. Having made his bed, Lord Eddard prepares to sleep in it.
That is an unfortunate title to go with that.
Yeah?
He's definitely gonna love him. If you get my meaning.
Poor John.
Indeed.
Continued from the previous chapter. 298 AL, King's Landing. Where else would it continue from? I'm curious, like...
Maybe it's a Witcher-style timeline.
Oh, God.
So I liked that on the show. I would hate that in a book.
Yep. In
Yeah.
a book, it would be fucking weird.
Anything else I should know, Lord Varus, such as perhaps the Golden Company being hired to assist us? Varus laughed nervously, and Ned felt a massive headache approach. That was supposed to be a joke. Where will I find the gold to pay them? No, my lord, it was considered but found unnecessary. The only thing left, I suppose, is the minor, sticky detail that your good sister Lysa poisoned her husband. Lysa did what? He roared, standing up. I think it was Baelish who planned the whole thing, for Aeron had found out about the Lannister bastards. Ned Stark collapsed back into his seat, so Baelish was the man Lord Hoster had mentioned. Hoster Tully had told them that Lysa was not a maiden, but Jon was too old to care much about this, except it cost him his life. I will have a letter ready for you in an hour. Have it sent to Lord Jon Royce in the Vale. This is of utmost importance, Lord Varus, as we need the Vale to fight Tywin. I knew Lord Royce from when I was fostered there, and he will defend the honor of House Arryn after I instruct him what must be done. We need to tread care. What?
Is Tywin wank fit? Because it seems like he needs every kingdom to fight Tywin.
It does seem kind of
It
like
does
Tywin.
seem like that.
I think I'm the only writer in existence that just had him like defeated within like a chapter.
That's just as weird as him being wanked, by the way.
Really?
I think him poisoned straight away, personally.
I mean, there is that fic that has Jaime squiring Jon from an early age, where Tywin just dies in the first chapter.
You mean the Dragon Cub?
Yeah.
Decent idea, really bad execution.
Most of that author's fics are like that.
There's another fic called Rhyme and Cub that has a Marcella and Jon pairing.
Worm
Much
and
better
Cub, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
much better execution. Yeah, much better execution.
We need to tread carefully, for Sir Brynden Tully may be honorable, but family comes first for those damn fishes. Lord Royce will have the Vale secured for us very soon. Even Ned calls them damn fishes.
Extra minor detail, but fishes is not a word.
Yes, it is, actually.
Not in that context.
Looks
Yeah,
like you're gonna be
it's not
sleeping
in
with the
that
fishes.
context. But yes, fishes is a word. It is the plural when talking about multiple different types of fish.
Yep.
Also, another thing, even if Hoster wasn't competent, the Blackfish is.
But he is in the Vale, not in the Riverlands.
Yeah, that means he can't do anything.
If I may offer a word of advice, you should write to your good sister as well, telling her that Baelish has sung like a canary, and all the Vale houses have been informed about her crime. Evidence, Lord Varus, evidence. I cannot tell her to jump out of the moon door without enough evidence.
What?
What?
That's not what would happen.
That-
What she would
that's-
actually do is call up all her men and seal the castle or whatever.
That's also not what Varus was saying to do. Instead, just say, like, write her and tell her that Everything's out in the open.
Nope. I command you to fly.
Make the Batman fly!
Basically.
Make the chubby lady fly.
Varus dropped a package on the desk. Communication between them. Baelish thought he was smart. I proved smarter.
Okay.
I will write to Lysa as well. Hopefully that damn woman has enough honor to jump from the Eyrie, then let us drag her to a headsman. There is also a slight change of plans. Reach men can only be used to defend Crownlands in the Reach. Let Tywin do what he will with the Riverlands, and wear himself out before we gut him.
Oh god.
Just casually throwing his mother's or his wife's family's land under the bus.
Yep.
Just let them all die. It don't matter.
Not just that, going to execute his wife's sister without even a trial or proper evidence.
I mean, he did say it's Dark Ned.
I mean, he has
There's Dark
evidence
Ned, and
now.
then there's Stupid Ned.
He has evidence now.
True.
You need to be quick about speaking with Lord Tyrell, my lord. Someone had whispered about marrying Marjorie to Joffrey. Even Mace Tyrell won't be so stupid. I will meet the Tyrells as soon as I have a conversation with Cersei. Allow me to lead you to our cell, then, my lord.
Lol.
Just taking a minute. Mace Tyrell would be exactly that stupid. Olenna doesn't make all the decisions for nothing.
This is true.
I hope the accommodations suit your taste, my lady, spoke Ned Stark. Cersei Lannister looked like she would have assaulted him if she wasn't chained to the wall. A necessary precaution. I was wrong to have overestimated your honor, Lord Stark, but it changes nothing. My father will soon teach you and your family a lesson, and Joff will be king. My father hears about this.
God damn it. Always a classic.
Yes. The only king the Seven Kingdoms will have is Jaehaerys III Targaryen, my nephew. He was extremely pleased to see Cersei's reaction, as her face showed shock for the first time in this whole ordeal. Rhaegar's? She whispered. With Lyanna, proclaimed king in the last days of Targaryen rule by Queen Rhaella and Lord Commander Gerald Hightower. Queen Rhaella wasn't even around. And the child was expected to be a girl. And even ignoring all that, Rhaella crowned Viserys. But he will need a queen, won't we? This was not a question Ned Stark had anticipated, and he was wary, to say the least. How is that your concern? I would like to mention that I am available. I am nobly born, have experience being Queen of the Seven Kingdoms, can provide the gold of the rock to the service of the king, and my fertility is not in question. So, I believe I am most suited to wed Rhaegar's son, and hope you will consider this favorably as the regent.
What the fuck? I'm not even... What the fuck?
I mean, at least he has the correct reaction.
Crack indeed.
That's Cersei right now.
Yep. Yep.
She heard that it was Rhaegar's, and she's all, oh man, panties dropped.
I mean, she said, I've got experience being Queen of the Seven Kingdoms, as if that's in medieval times, as if that would be a benefit.
Ned Stark had not interrupted her, as he was rendered speechless by her speech. Who has been supplying her with drugs? Your attempt of humor is a complete failure. I don't know, it was pretty funny. Humor, Cersei spoke, her face completely serious. I am very serious, Lord Stark. You are old enough to be his mother, older than what Lyanna would have been today, and I am aware that you did not keep to one bed while married to Robert. Prince Daemon and Princess Rhaenyra were uncle and niece, so age is no bar. Jaime and I were merely indulging in one of the most time-honored traditions of House Targaryen, but execute him off if you want. Robert was not a dragon, and I shall not stray from the bed of Rhaegar's son.
Jesus Christ.
Are you trying to talk, Mand'alor? Because all I'm hearing is muffle from you.
Huh? No, I'm not trying to talk.
Okay, I'm hearing like muffled noises from your mic.
I think he's just trying not to laugh.
Sarah, I'm thinking that Cersei could stay faithful to anyone. Laughable.
I think I fell asleep.
No, I am definitely not listening to this. Out of the question. We still need to get rid of your bastards. Besides, Marjorie Tyrell is younger and prettier. I'm sure my nephew will prefer that to an old woman having birthed 3 children, Ned Stark said before turning and moving swiftly to the door. Consider Myrcella if I am too old. Please do not go, Lord Regent. Please, please, please!
Oh god.
She won. She succeeded in scaring me out of the dungeons, thought Ned as he rushed up the stairs. Now the Tyrell. She scared Ned Stark out of the dungeons.
I mean, to be fair.
I mean, I would probably react the same to this conversation.
Yeah, I do
I think
I
anyone
felt
would.
this conversation starting.
Targaryen.
Maybe put her down for her own good.
Targaryen.
Wait,
Lord Mace
did we
asked.
find out if Jamie's alive or not?
Yes, Jaime is still alive. Cersei just
Okay.
offered to let him be executed if it means she gets to
Wait.
marry John, though.
Yep.
Wow.
It's like... Jaime and I were merely indulging in one of the most time-honored traditions of House Targaryen, but execute him off if you want. Robert was not a dragon, and I shall not stray from the bed of Rhaegar's son.
Oh, wow.
Targaryen? Lord Mace asked, excitement barely contained in his face. A dragon from Prince Rhaegar's line? Ned nodded his assent, and was greeted with the distressing sight of seeing that fat man try to dance. John owes me a lot for enduring this. Tarly and Rowan were not whooping or jumping up and down, but the smiles on their faces revealed their thoughts. We all fought for King Ares. These are welcome tidings, spoke Tarly. There is still the question of what to do if he was sworn himself to the watch. Who cares? Yelled Mace Tyrell. I will give the Lord Commander 500, nay 1,000 men to free my good son.
Like, I thought 200 was a little much, but then this dude...
I'll give him 1,000 men.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, just small folk, they aren't worth anything.
I need to keep this one under control. The upright Lord Tarly looked slightly uneasy at the thought of oath-breaking, but nodded his assent. These are extraordinary circumstances, after all, spoke Randall Tarly. Nevertheless, I do not think he has been sworn in yet. My firstborn is in the watch, and I was pleased to know that he had found proper company in the form of Lord Stark's natural son, if you would forgive my ignorance concerning the true status of his grace. Nevertheless, the batch of recruits his grace is in has probably not been sworn in, since Sam has not written to me yet. Perhaps Fat Sam did not want to tell you that he didn't graduate with his class, said the Fat Flower. Tarly clenched his fist, but instead turned to face Ned Stark. Does his grace keep to the old gods? Damn, I forgot about that detail. Still, John was never religious, and I am sure he can convert in a week. John was just as devoted to the old gods as Ned was.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the faith of the old gods isn't big on ceremonies, so isn't quite a religion in that aspect that the faith of the Seven is. And the idea of him converting in a week. I hope pious Lord Tarly will be satisfied with that. He does, but then any oaths he might swear will be to a heart tree that has no legal standing south of the neck. So it is not oath-breaking. We simply need to get him south of the neck in some fashion, finished Lord Tarly. I'm pretty sure it does, though. Like, even in the South, they swear to the old gods and the new. So even though the South doesn't worship the old gods, they would still respect an oath sworn before the heart tree as valid. Like,
not necessarily.
moving on. That's hurting my brain to think about that. I'm exerting the server's single brain cell. That was better. Lord Valerian is already headed to the wall, and he promised a dozen men to delay swearing his grace in. Only a dozen? Asked Mace Tyrell with disdain. Any more would attract undue suspicion. I know Lord Commander Mormont personally. I will write and offer 100 if he has been sworn in. We can increase the number based on his response. My son will be accompanying Lord Valerian, and he will deal with the situation there. Sounds a good plan. Now shall we defend the Riverlands from Lord Tywin, said Tarly. No, let him waste his strength there. Rather cold attitude towards your wife's family, my lord. Not cold, simply practical.
Jesus.
Okay!
I'm not even sure what to think about that.
Author's note. This is not an update. Regular updates will happen later, and the current contents will be relegated to a note. There is something I feel I have to speak about, no matter how much I dislike it. Recently, there have been several comments on a few of my fics about how my characters are just wrong. Now, there is nothing wrong with criticism. I welcome it, and I'm grateful to the large number of people, you know who you are, thanks guys, who have pointed out grammatical or spelling errors, as well as constructive criticism plus questions. However, I feel I have to draw a line about certain things. This is fanfiction, and people do make assumptions about characters or make them act in different ways. It is expected, after all, else there would be nothing to do but copy canon, or explore small quantum mechanical perturbations to amplify. There will, of course, be author bias seeping in, and my fics generally use character POVs, where another layer of bias comes in. In long, detailed fics like Weirwood and Volcano, I anticipated criticism about the way certain characters met their ends. To my delight, most of the reviewers, even those who admittedly like some of the characters I sent off to an early grave, expressed an understanding of why it was necessary. Recently, though, I have been on the receiving end of criticism from some ardent fans of House Tully, Eddard Stark, Sansa, who
wonder why.
who feel I have not done their fave characters justice. So far, I have endeavored to give detailed replies to their concerns, but this is getting ridiculous. People are talking about how made characters OC in a crack fic, which suggests that some people are probably missing the whole point of such a fic. Please understand that I am not referring to all of you. Many of you have been with me from the start, and I am really grateful for all your positive messages that help me to keep writing. It is only certain recent Anon reviewers, I'm not even certain if there are multiple people or one person, that have tried my patience. The obvious solution would be to block Anon reviews, but I will not do so. I have posted Anon reviews in my own time, and at least one of my best reviewers prefers to not have an account here. While I dislike the near fascist approach I have to take, I will simply delete comments that are about how I am wrong to screw Catelyn over or such. I have justified my thought process far too many times already. Feel free to boycott this fic, mute me, delete my comments in your fics, etc., but I will stand firm. I came to this site to write, not debate canon. Else I would have gone to Westeros.org and such. While some discussions about canon are helpful, one-track defenders are rarely the ones to initiate such. My writings will invariably reflect my own thinking process, and I am not ashamed of it. I refuse to waste my breath debating this one issue ad infinitum. You are still perfectly entitled to comment about just how wrong I am, but I will either ignore or delete them, just not to clutter it up for other reviewers. There are no financial dealings here, and so I have absolutely no reason to defend my thinking. I only do so because I like discussions with reasonable people. Some recent discussions are anything but that. Thank you for reading this. I hope you will stay on for the rest of this fic. If I make mistakes, factual, grammatical, spelling, etc., please feel free to point these out. All such comments will be untouched. Or if you have questions about how things are moving, etc., by all means ask. If the only thing you have to say is that I should not screw Catelyn over, I would request you to read some earlier threads and see if that issue has not been debated to death already. If you still continue to feel so, I would request you to not comment, so as to not waste both our energies. Thank you again, my dear readers. I am grateful that so many people have read this fic, and felt it worthwhile to leave a message behind. I am delighted to have so many readers. Yours sincerely, Basilius.
That was not unreasonable.
It wasn't, actually. It
Probably
showed...
the best rant of that kind that I've ever seen an author do.
So, it's a well-constructed it's also well constructed. It shows that it actually is intentional crack in the rest of the story. Because
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
clearly
got a tag crack.
he clearly can write based on just this letter.
And it also shows that he's willing to take criticism, just
Yeah.
not ridiculous criticism.
So yeah, I like that. The Lands of Winter. Multiple short POVs per chapter begin. The year is 298 AL, not mentioning it specifically from now on until we do move to 299. Events happening in the north and in the wall. Notes. Thank you for the massive outpouring of support. I was extremely happy to see so many people spend some time to offer their views. I decided to leave that author's note sitting right there, although for once I will not offer individual replies. Please allow me to thank all of you here, collectively. Just a clarification. Fascist censor only on for this fic. Specifically labeled crack. Discussions can continue as always in other fics, without me intervening, although I might just redirect to another thread instead of making the same point multiple points. Another couple points here. Ned going whatever on the Riverlands is certainly slightly unexpected, and I am elaborating what not Honorable Lord Stark was thinking. Lysa having lover raises huge questions about Robert Arryn's paternity, especially on account of Jon Arryn's age. To be fair, I am not blaming Lysa. She was essentially sold to buy her father influence. The one who deserves to be despised is Hoster, for marrying her to a man older than himself, his pound of flesh for supporting Robert's rebellion. What happened to not inserting modern values?
Some people just can't help themselves.
God, that's long. I'm skipping the rest of that. No.
I mean, he might not even realize, like, it's so ingrained in people now.
True. Catelyn Tully, Winterfell. Catelyn was surprised to see so many men outside Winterfell, as she rode on with Sir Roderick and the Manderley men. Everyone has responded to Ned calling the banners. She had heard about Ned's orders to call the banners and prepare for war on arrival to White Harbor. Lord Manderley had sent all his men with her and Sir Roderick. I did have my doubts about how many would heed the call to obey a 14-year-old boy, but I suppose 8,000 years' worth loyalty is stronger than that, remembering with a pang that the Freys had only aided her father after they had won at the Trident, while Dari and many others had openly defied Hoster Tully. But they lost and we won. Now we go teach the Lannisters a lesson. The men thought so too, judging from the festive atmosphere. Robb had been waiting for her, and she was led to Ned's solar soon after dismounting, along with Sir Roderick. Maester Luwin was there as well, and so were Lords Umber and Glover, and Mage Mormont. Catelyn was not too fond of the improper woman with her bastards, but those three were Ned's most trusted bannermen. Men! Ha! And so she chose to maintain silence. Northern savages indeed. All barbarians north of the Neck and south of the Marches. At least Ned was raised civilly by Lord Arryn. There has been a slight change in circumstances, my lady. Robert Baratheon is dead, spoke Luwin. Dead? But how? He was pretty hale when I was in King's Landing. But drink often did just that. It was really no great loss to the realm, though it meant the Lannister woman held power in King's Landing. Even more imperative we ride down and secure the place, so that Sansa can wed Joffrey and be queen.
Wait, what?
Talking about teaching the Lannisters a lesson. Talking about teaching the Lannisters a lesson. But still wanting to wed Sansa to Joffrey.
Didn't he get rid of Joffrey in an earlier chapter?
Yes,
Yeah,
but
this
the
is
word...
Catelyn's point of view. She doesn't know.
Yeah, the word hasn't spread to Catelyn.
Okay, flashback. Yeah, I must have zoned out at some point.
Has Joffrey been crowned? there have been, difficulties about that. What difficulties? What about Tommen? It may have to be Arya then, as the boy cannot marry a girl much older. We'll have to look for a match in the Reach for my poor Sansa. Difficulties there too, my lady. Lord Robb has to go south for help settling the issue. Myrcella? Robb going south? Oh, my dear sweet Ned, I'm amazed by your foresight. By wedding them together, we get the throne for our son. Aloud, she exclaimed, so that's why the men are in such a festive mood. The king is coming from Winterfell. Robert, this is your moment of glory. Your father's wisdom to remove Myrcella's brothers and marry her to you has brought this good fortune upon us.
Jesus Christ.
Mother? I am not going to marry Myrcella or be king, said Robb. However, the king is coming from Winterfell, said Luwin. Don't tell me my honorable lord husband wants to confine his firstborn to the north. Bran? He might be closer in age, but will the realm accept a cripple? And Rickon is but a babe. The silence that greeted her was deafening. She laughed nervously before saying, Don't jape with your poor mother, Robb. Marry Myrcella or Shireen, whoever it is, and be king. One would think from your words that my husband is crowning Jon Snow. The expressions were answer enough, and Catelyn felt the world around her go black. How could he? She screamed as soon as she regained consciousness. Make Ashara Dane's bastard king over his firstborn! To be fair, my lady, Robb doesn't have Targaryen blood, unless you had a dalliance with Rhaegar Targaryen that we are not aware of, said Luwin. She briefly considered saying she did, but decided that would be a bit too problematic. Ned won't be too happy, and adultery by a woman was a serious affair. But the question where Ned found a Targaryen woman confounded her. She could only think of one of childbearing age alive during the war. Maester, how did my husband meet Queen Rhaella? Oh, God. Queen Rhaella? Luwin's eyebrows went up high. Prince Rhaegar Targaryen entered into a Targaryen-style polygamous marriage to Lady Lyanna, and their son Jaehaerys had been with us in Winterfell over all these years. At that point, Catelyn decided fainting again was not too bad an option.
Clearly, she has a delicate constitution.
Clearly. Lord Montrose Valerian, White Harbor. Lord Montrose had no desire to get off his ship, and in fact detested having to stop here en route to Eastwatch. But the spider said there might be good news by the time he got this far up north, and he decided to check for himself. Good news arrived in the form of Robb Stark himself entering the cabin and announcing he was joining them on the trip to the Wall. Valerian briefly wondered how the devil did Robb Stark know that he was even here, but was soon presented with letters from Ned Stark and Varys himself to explain. Looks like Stark has seen reason after all. In any case, I hold his heir now, assuming he wants to play any fishy games. I hope that dog does not cause issues. Time to rescue his grace from these northern savages. Savages, savages. Benjen Stark, the Wall. Benjen had been surprised to get the Raven from Eastwatch that Lord Montrose Valerian was coming here. Lords generally do not come up here. Can't be thinking of taking the black now, is he? Of course, he knew that there was something else going on. Officially, the purpose was to bring a dozen men to the watch and visit poor Maester Aemon, whose mother had been a Valerian. But he was also privy to the letter Valerian had sent to Lord Commander Mormont, requesting that Jon not be sworn in, and had offered a dozen men in return. Mormont has asked him why Valerian even cared. He was perfectly aware why, but didn't mention Lyanna to Mormont, vaguely mentioning that he himself was against letting any under the age of 16 from saying the final vows. He was simply hoping for some more entertainment, so rare this far up north, from whatever games Valerian wanted to play. Of course, he had regretted effectively telling Mormont to not sign his nephew up, for the old bear had stopped him from going ranging. Mormont claimed he was too old, and needed an heir when the uncle of his first choice had stopped him from even inducting the said recruit into the watch. So he was now stuck in Castle Black, waiting for Valerian. A commotion had broken out, and he turned to see fat Tarly run towards him. "Maester Aemon has gone mad!" screamed Samwell. "Hardly. That man is saner than anyone else, including me. I don't think his years have caught up with him yet." However, the voice did sound uncomfortably like Maester Aemon's, though he was certain he had never heard the man whoop either. He walked over to see the old man trying to dance with his unwilling and scared-looking nephew, screaming, "We are back in power! We are back in power! Death to all traitors! Burn them all!"
Okay. That was something else.
The image of Aemon Targaryen dancing with Jon screaming this is just...
amusing.
Okay, that's gotta go on Discord.
It has to.
That's getting an everyone ping.
I think this deserves a positive review.
I guess I know where Aerys got his behavior from, then. How the devil does he even know about Jon? He turned to see Lord Commander Mormont looking at him sternly. "Your brother, the Lord Hand, wrote," said Lord Commander Mormont. "Apparently, Robert Baratheon is dead. So are his brothers and their families. Robert's children were apparently fathered by Jaime Lannister, creating a succession crisis. Any idea why he has written these details to the Watch? Because he needs a new king? I am not completely sure." Funny, for the letter asks me to speak with you about details about how Jon Snow is the legitimate king of the Seven Kingdoms. Benjen heard a thunk and turned to see that Jon had hit his head on a post and fainted. I wish I thought of that first.
This is something else.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
Valerian and Robb got there the next day, and Jon at first refused to meet any of them. Still too traumatized to speak after discovering the whole episode. Personally, Benjen suspected that the issue was Maester Aemon humming "Burn them all the time." Robb, of course, did not care and barged right in, followed by what seemed like the rest of the Watch. "Your Grace," spoke Lord Valerian, "the realm has need of you." "Fuck the realm," came the reply. "This is a great honor, Jon," yelled Robb. "Oh yeah? Let me ask a few questions. Can I marry whoever I want? You're engaged to Marjorie Tyrell. Can I travel wherever I want? Of course not. Can I do whatever I want? No. Then why be king and give up the freedoms of a bastard?
Jesus Christ.
I mean, he was going to swear to celibacy, wasn't he? So
Yeah, he was gonna be bound to
About
the
to be celibate. About to only be able to travel where the watch tells you. About to only be able to do what the watch tells you.
yeah.
So,
You're
going-
go wherever you want.
You're getting married. You will be able to travel wherever you want. You'll just have to take a guard with you. And
You can eat all the good food. You won't have to live in the
Technically-
dark cold.
technically, you can do whatever you want. It's just not wise to do so.
And you get a super hot wife.
Yes. So, overall, it's a net positive.
Oh yeah.
Firstly, because you have apparently been crowned since you were born. And secondly, there is no one else. Find that girl in Essos for all I care. I am staying here. No, you are not, said Lord Commander Mormont. Lord Valerian has given me 12 men for keeping you out, which is worth more than you, Targaryen or not.
Jesus Christ.
Oof.
What a way to talk to the king.
Oof. It's like, you're just not worth it, John.
That's not a wise thing to say to your new king.
To
The
be
watch is
fair-
separated from the Seven Kingdoms. They don't owe the king any loyalty.
Yeah, that's true.
And father wanted me to tell you that you have no place in Winterfell now, or anywhere in the north, added Robb. It is either the crown or join the wildlings, as you have no money to get to the free cities. the climbs
What the
nor-
fuck?
the climbs north of the wall seem fairly attract Clunk.
I'm not even sure what to think anymore.
Me neither. John had collapsed into the ground again, and Lord Valerian wore a very self-satisfied smirk, clutching a small club which he had just used. Impressive. No bleeding, Lord Commander Mormont noted. This is from the east. I think they call it rubber?
He hit him with a rubber. Ah!
Mand, tell me, is rubber a thing in the world of Ice and Fire?
No.
It is now.
Yet another modern thing being brought into the fic. I would not mind one, actually, said Robb. I'm gifting this one to your father. He will need it. Nah, John will show sense once we get away from here. Which reminds me, we should move him right now, as he is unconscious. Get that damn wolf of his, Maester Aemon and Samwell Tarly as well. Lord Ned wanted all of them to be around. And start calling him Jaehaerys. We need practice. Lots of it. The inspiration behind John's behavior came from reading the 11th century historian Michael Psellus about the crowning of Empress Theodora in 1042. She was 62. Astounded by the unexpectedness of this sight, she refused at first to give way to their pleading, and shut herself up in the church, deaf to every entreaty. The citizen army, however, giving up all hope of persuasion, used force, and some of their number, drawing their daggers, rushed in as if to kill her. Boldly they dragged her from the sanctuary, brought her out into the open, and clothed her in a magnificent robe. Then they made her sit on a horse, and forming a circle all about her, they led her to the great church of Santa Sophia. Homage was paid to her, and now by a mere fraction of the people, but by all of the elite as well. Everyone, with utter disregard for the tyrant, and loud applause for her, proclaimed Theodora Empress. Okay, skipping the rest of that and moving on. And it looks like I am a king. Eddard Stark
Okay.
meets King Jaehaerys III. Oh, nothing. Title shamelessly stolen from Let It Go from Frozen. Lord Ned meets up with his nephew's entourage. This is a short chapter, prelude to the intense first day of court. King's Landing. Ned Stark was glad to know that Lord Valerian had been successful in dragging his nephew to the capital, apparently without much issue. The ship had just berthed at the harbor, and he was riding out to greet his new king and drag him to the Red Keep. Fuck protocol. I must go to greet the king, and you must not appear to be the one coming to me. It would have been so much more efficient to let Valerian pull Jaehaerys to the keep. Then again, the odds of his nephew slipping away into the crowd, after weeks of being locked inside a ship cabin, was pretty large. I have to be the one to escort him. He knew Jon. Jon would not run from him. He was not surprised to see Lord Valerian and Robb on the deck, but he was surprised to see that Ghost and Greywind were quivering in a corner. Getting closer, he realized the source of their discomfort. Apparently, someone was dragging long nails on rock, and he was forced to cover his ears. Lord Montress, Robb, what the devil is that awful sound? Robb simply grinned and waved at him. Valerian nodded, and he was the one to reply. I am afraid your son cannot hear you, Lord Stark. He has stuffed his ears with cotton to escape the ordeal, as have most of my men. This is Maester Aemon's well-intentioned attempt to introduce grace to the harp. So apparently Jon sucks at the harp.
Yep.
Although how you would get a harp sounding like dragging nails across a rock, I don't know.
Person just doesn't know how to write, I guess. But I like that idea.
Yeah, I do like Jon not being good at everything Rhaegar was. How the devil? Rhaegar was so much more better. I need to find a good teacher for him soon, else Marjorie will not be too happy. Aloud,
Why would
he wondered,
she care?
How are you unaffected? I heard Aerys play. Trust me, I have survived much worse. His grace is infinitely more talented than his grandsire, although his skills as not of the same caliber as his father and grandmother. Lyanna could never play anything for the life of it, and I never had either Jon or Robb exposed to the finer arts. It was a useless luxury in the north. But now? I feel I must also warn you, Lord Stark. Maester Aemon's eyesight has greatly improved on the account of the new contraption I got from Volantis. Eyeglasses, I believe they are called. His Grace fancied himself a pair too, though he variety for normal sight. What the devil? Why? Apparently to look older and more dignified.
Okay.
Wearing a newfangled contraption? Has he gone full Targaryen and totally taken leave of his senses? That was the moment when the two dragons chose to venture out. He had to admit, the weird thing around Maester Aemon's eyes did make him look more dignified. His nephew, on the other hand, well, I hope his wife has better fashion sense. Lord Stark, began Aemon, your role in the so-called Robert's Rebellion leaves much to be desired. Is he going to start about this now? Is this only because of age, or was he just pushed off the wall as he was so clueless to begin with? However, Aemon continued, in light of your recent actions, His Grace has decided to pardon you and appoint you as regent till he is of age. He also desires that you continue his hand, as a reward for treating His Grace appropriately over all these years. Correct me if I'm wrong, But 15 is manhood at this time, correct?
Correct.
That's what I thought. John was shaking his head and making a series of hand gestures that clearly seemed to suggest his low opinion of Aemon's sanity. At least this Targaryen had the coin fall on the right side. His nephew smiled on seeing him, and it was the normal kind, not, as he grew to call it, the Ares kind, which appeared whenever the boys pulled a prank on Theon or Sansa. Lord Stark, spoke King Jaehaerys III, we have much to discuss. That we do. Go over the whole story again. To the keep then, your grace. Certainly. As it turned out, serious discussions were greatly delayed by his little princess, who ran out to meet her brothers. Arya's lack of adherence to protocol surprisingly did not scandalize anyone, not even Lord Prim and Proper Valerian or Old Maester Aemon. He hoped those mutters about Visenya Targaryen was just a trick his ears were playing, damaged by the royal music. After successfully monopolizing Jon for 3 hours, 1 of talking, 2 of water dancing, she finally left with Robb, promising to return and start planning names for her nephews and nieces. Arya would not do that. She wouldn't care in the least about naming kids. Thank God Sansa isn't here. If she was, she would have made a scandal about how wrong we are to usurp her Joffrey and jail Cersei. I don't think I could have spared her from being sent to the Silent Sisters then. That would have been too serious a breach of protocol. Finally, though, it was just the 2 of them, in the library. Jon took a seat behind the royal table, and he sat in the other chair in front. Jon lowered his eyeglasses till they were dangling at the end of his nose, a sight that was almost comical.
I can't get over him wearing eyeglasses.
Right? Lord Stark, cut the drama, will you? I promised I will tell you about your mother, and well, now is the time. It's certainly not how I wanted it to be, but we don't have a better choice. Jon removed those glasses, and Ned could see the edges of his eyes were slightly moist. Let's talk about the official things first. We will talk about this later. First things first, you are betrothed to Margaery Tyrell, who is 3 months older than you and is widowed. However, her earlier husband preferred his roses with thorns, and so she is a maiden. The septas assure me the maidenhead is very much there. Therefore, there is no way you are getting out of this, and don't even dare think of pulling a Duncan on me. I know my duty. Plus, I hear she is pretty at the very least. It could have been worse. You could have matched me up with a Frey. Hell forbid. Another from Fishlandia? That too from the twins?
Fishlandia?
I am flattered by your high opinion of me. If anyone betrothed me to one of them, I would have ran and joined a Dothraki call. Game of Thrones, Uncle. Game of Thrones. And no, I am not wearing red, not even if you threaten me with a Frey betrothal. How the hell do you know what I was thinking? He wondered the same thing aloud. So, I had a conversation with someone from Troutland on the voyage, although he is from a proper family, Blackwood.
So it's Troutland now.
Fishlandia, Troutland.
I like these.
Eddard nodded. The old god-worshipping Blackwoods were very respectable. His name is Brynden. He is 125 years old, and has 1,000 eyes in one. Eddard Stark found the moment to be appropriate one to faint.
What is this story?
I don't even know anymore. Lannister trials.
Oh God. Read the summary.
In which Cersei wakes the dragon.
Oh God.
Prophet, they did a very thorough inspection. Maegor's holdfast. Eddard Stark was in the throne room, along with nearly all the lords and ladies available. Lord Royce had joined them from the Vale, and most of the Reach Lords were already there, along with the ones from the Crownlands. Today was going to be a big day after all. The Lannisters were going to be tried and sentenced. He wished he could have already taken care of them, but he could not. No one would fault him for making Pycelle or minor lords like Baelish a head shorter. But executing a house paramount required a king. Not that we were in disagreement about what needs to be done. Jon had rubber-stamped his plans after he had recovered sufficiently to state them. There had only been a few minor points of discontent, such as over asset management of the crown and the execution details. He had told his nephew quite firmly that he was not going to be the one to swing the sword, as he was not yet of age. It would fall upon the Lord Regent, the uncle of the king, to perform that duty, and he was looking forward to it, no matter how much Jon pouted. The king was fashionably late. Just long enough to make the lords realize that he didn't care very much for their time, but not long enough to hint incompetence. As we decided last night. He was glad to know that Jon was wearing dark blue instead of carrying out his threat of wearing pink. Jon had steadfastly refused the Targaryen colors, claiming red was too Lannister, and black reminded him too much of the Night's Watch. The eyeglasses, however, were still there, on top his nose. Ned made a mental decision to confiscate them after it all got over. The king walked to the Iron Throne and waited expectantly. It took the assembled lords a bit long to realize that they were supposed to sing many years to the king, but they followed Ned's cue. Royal protocol will take years to fix. Lord Hand, what is the business of the day? The Lannister trials, your grace. Well, the public version. They have already been sentenced. He wanted to see Cersei's face so badly. Bring the prisoners here and hand me the charge sheets. Another crazy idea, to have charge sheets. But whatever. Aloud he yelled, "You heard him!" Okay, so what happened to not bringing modern stuff into the story? Like,
You can't trust this person.
obviously. The prisoners, all bound and gagged, arrived faster than the papers, as Varys was in charge and not Tarly. The father-son reunion on that side had been temporarily delayed, over the reluctance exhibited by both sides. The king moved the spectacles to the end of his nose and picked up the first piece of paper. Tommen Waters, no crimes committed. Ward of the state on account of incompetent parents. The Faith wants your head for being a product of incest. The Wall will be the best place. Next.
Well, that was quick.
Yeah. I love how the Citadel wasn't even considered. Tommen was quickly removed from the room, and he was due on the next ship to Eastwatch in an hour. One less headache. Myrcella Waters. Charges and circumstances same as Tommen's. To the Silent Sisters. Excellent so far. Joffrey Waters, charged with, a multitude of serious crimes. Wait, what? It was supposed to be the same as Tommen's. Charges include insulting the king at Winterfell, attempted murder of Brandon Stark. Joffrey was behind that? Jon would know, though, with all the tricks he had picked up from Bloodraven. He knew Baelish gave the dagger to Joffrey, but had so far thought it was stolen and then used for the crime by an agent of Baelish. One less crime against the man. Murder of one Micah, murder of a sibling of the royal direwolf, and a harm against another sibling, an inappropriate suggestion to highborn ladies, finished the king. Do you have anything to say? The gag was torn off, but it was difficult to interpret the stream of sounds that came out of Joffrey's mouth. A few words like king and bastard could be distinguished. So the bastard is trying to apologize to the king? Spoke Jaehaerys Targaryen. Not granted. Sentenced to death to be executed after the trial's end. That was a slight change of plans, and Tarly looked a bit shocked, but not enough to complain, and he, who as regent could possibly try to appeal, was not going to do so. If he was the one who sent the assassin after Bran, I would chop his head off with pleasure. Tyrion Lannister. Crimes committed include being born both an imp and a Lannister. Do you plead guilty? The imp had just been able to say yes when he was gagged up again. The men were ordered to ensure he was quiet. Very well, then. Your sentence is fairly straightforward. The claims of House Lannister on the Rock have been voided, and so I am appointing you as Imperial Secretary in charge of newly acquired assets in King's Landing. Give him his letter of appointment. That had been a sticking point. Tyrion is getting rewarded for reasons.
Being a dwarf?
Yes. For being a dwarf and a Lannister.
Alright. That's fair.
And he gave Jon some good advice on the way to the wall.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That had been a sticking point. Everyone wanted to send him to the wall, except Jon and Aemon. Both were convinced he was innocent, that his skills could be put to better use. Tarly and he had been scandalized by their proposal, but ultimately the recently acquired royal property needed an asset manager, and who knew what to do, unlike either of them. Imperial Secretary in charge of royal brothels in King's Landing, Tyrion Lannister spoke, his jaw hanging down. Tyrion gets to run the whorehouses now.
Hell yeah.
He truly is the god of tits and wine.
Yep.
Certainly, acquired by Baelish with funds siphoned off the state. I want them running a proper profit, and that too soon. Your words are basically, hear me, whore. So you were the right candidate. Do not fail me, or else you join your nephew. Take him to his office. Hear me, whore. Well, he was the best person for the job, thought Ned as the imp was dragged off. Jaime Lannister. Charges include regicide, incest, attempting to murder Brandon Stark, attempt to silence witnesses, and generally being a stuck-up, incompetent prick. How do you plead? Guilty, but he wanted to burn us all! Screamed the disheveled Kingslayer, who barely looked half so golden as before. Varys had admitted he was drugging Jaime Lannister to stop him from trying to escape, although he had forbidden Varys from ever drugging Cersei again. Robb was looking murderously at the man, and he realized he might have to allow Robb and Jon to together kill Joffrey, just so that they felt better about avenging Bran. Sentenced to death. Now Cersei Lannister. Charges include incest, attempt to murder, involvement in killing direwolves, and being generally a stuck-up cunt. How do you plead? Now the fun begins. He had purposely not warned Jon about Cersei, as revenge for scaring him with Bloodraven. I want to marry you, your grace. All my actions were to prove my devotion to you, screamed Cersei Lannister. King Jaehaerys III looked shocked, and so did nearly every one of the lords. Mace Tyrell's face had turned purple, and Lord Royce looked murderous. Woman, roared Lord Tarley, have you taken leave of your senses? I can assure you I have the right qualifications to be your queen, your grace. I was supposed to be married to your father until he got involved with that sickly fool and the wolf bitch. You should not have said that. I can supply you with all the gold in the rock, and having birthed 3 children, there is no scope of me being barren. The spectacles fell to the floor as Jaehaerys Targaryen stood up. There was no trace of Jon Snow on that face. But something far more sinister was quite visible, just underneath the surface. You have some nerve to dare say that, after what Lannister bannermen did to my brother and sister. Of course, your grace. That is why you know we will be loyal, as we thus cleared your path to the throne. The ground shook pretty strongly, and all the glass in the room promptly exploded, except Daemon's glasses, as the old man continued to look unperturbed. Jaehaerys, however, was shaking in anger. You should not have said that. That is it! Burn them all! Well, that was unexpected, but appropriate. So much for Ned swinging the sword there.
The ground shook.
And the windows exploded.
Yeah, it's like he's in Dragon Ball.
Waking the Dragon, in which Marjorie meets the dragon. Warning, this chapter may be disturbing to many readers. Please do not continue if you found Aerys II to be a character beyond salvation. So we're going to see some Aerys apology?
Or maybe Jon will behave like him.
Possibly. I actually have a better suggestion, spoke Maester Aemon. No, I am not sanctioning unethical experimentation for testing your crazy ideas, snapped Jaehaerys. What are ethics in a medieval society?
No such thing.
That ethics are a modern invention. Your Grace, I have a daughter if you think I am too old. You can have us both, like in Targaryen tradition, tried Cersei. That is a little sick. The other lords thought so too, judging from the number of disgusted faces. Mace Tyrell looked like he would strangle Cersei. Jaehaerys' face had turned whiter than snow, and a vein was throbbing in his forehead. I changed my mind, declared the king. Maester Aemon has my express blessing to do what he wants to Joffrey and any Lannister adult. Furthermore, as king, I am also the defender of the faith, and I hereby declare a pardon for any questionable acts that may be committed in the process. The Seven will not see any actions committed against this family of swine in an unfavorable light. Okay. You're great. One more word, Lannister, and I shall personally educate you with the Eastern custom of death by 1,000 cuts. I advise you close both your mouth and your legs if you do not want to be intimately acquainted with a slow slicing. No, don't reply. Men, just gag her up. I don't want to give in so easily. So, what is it going to be, Maester? Should I send for Quicksilver? Continued the king. No, that is a special for Tywin. I think your orders should be carried out, and we should instead send for a pyromancer. said the old man with a wide grin on his face. "We are fortunate that Hallen from the guild is already here, your grace. He hopes for the restoration of the patronage offered by the Targaryen kings," spoke Varys. "Excellent, excellent," cackled Maester Aemon. "This room will do perfectly. These sentences have been carried out here before. I hope the lords will stay for the show. Varys, be a dear and get the eggs while Hallen prepares the setup." Ouch. This is not a scene I wanted to see, but this is the price for defying a Targaryen, and the sentence this time is well earned. I don't see Ned supporting this at all. Then again, this isn't canon Ned. This is Dark Ned. Within moments, there were 3 Lannisters trussed up and tied to the 3 iron pillars in the middle of the room. Hallen was busy spraying them with some liquid, which a few acolytes were stacking wildfire at the base of the pillars. Aemon walked forwards and dropped the 3 dragon eggs Varys had acquired from the east. Jaime Lannister looked highly discomfited at the circumstances, but was not in a position to actively register a protest. Valerian drew closer to him and whispered, "I confess, I have no idea what they are planning. Should be interesting, right?" He was about to reply when he noticed a disturbance, and looked closely. Sansa had ran into the room, closely followed by Septim Ordain. "No, I told that blasted woman to keep her out." Sansa tried to run to Joffrey, but Jory grabbed her before she could. Unfortunately, her voice was loud enough to be heard across the room. "No, you stupid bastard! How dare you do this to the Queen and Joffrey?" Well, at least she has not taken her Queen's example and offered marriage. Fear rose up within him as he realized what had happened the last time a Stark had defied a Targaryen in this room. Everyone has seen this. I cannot do much if he decides to throw her in with the Lannisters. "Septim Ordain, I must say I am shocked at your sheer incompetence. This girl does not even know how to address her king," spoke Jaehaerys. Mordain's jaws were hanging open, probably because she was trying to match Jon Snow with the king in front of her, but wisely decided to keep quiet. Throwing her into the pyre would not earn the king the epithet of Kingslayer after all. I think that's supposed to be Kinslayer. And so bowing low was the best option left to her. Take this foolish girl away and teach her how to address a king. I expect her to repeat it perfectly 50 times this evening. She'll repeat it 50 times for each failure," Jaehaerys said, turning to wink at him. "Use Sansa's courtesy against her. Oh, very smart, Jon." He approved. After all, the girl needed some discipline before being sent to the Umbers. Maester Aemon had reappeared in the room, wearing a rainbow-colored robe and a pointed hat with the same color scheme. He moved his glasses up his nose as he looked around. "Everything okay?" he asked Talon. Why is Maester Aemon in a rainbow robe?"
"'Cause gay."
"Yes, your grace. The gags are fireproof, so no chance of being bothered by screams." "The gags aren't going to stop the screams, they're just going to muffle them." "Excellent, set it off." Ned Stark was glad for the sudden flare of the flames that rushed up all 3 pillars, for that spared him from actually seeing all 3 Lannisters burn. However, his attention shifted to more important things when he heard 3 loud cracks, followed by 3 screeches. What the hell? Aemon's plan worked? Whispered Valerian. It had indeed, for 3 small reptiles walked out of the flames, moving towards the king. Black, white, and green, but there is a numerical mismatch, and Maester Aemon is nearly 100. Guess we need to call the Targaryen girl back after all. Lord Mace, said the king, turning to face him, how long will it take you to organize the wedding? Because the betting happens tonight, irrespective of how long it actually takes you lot. What? Okay. The king has an unconventional approach to problems. Let us hope for twins. It was perhaps the best idea, especially judging from Mace's smirk as he realized his daughter will be a queen before the day ended. Well, perhaps a shotgun wedding was precisely what John was looking for, to avoid all the drama. POV switch.
They know what shotguns are?
I mean, I guess so. Jon
Wow.
Snow, King Jaehaerys III Targaryen. Well, the wedding was not too bad. It was done rather hastily, of course, with little chance to actually prepare a grand feast. The ceremony had happened in Baelor, of course, and the girl was pretty enough. The drama with the cloaks was good entertainment, as they had to hastily find a Targaryen cloak from somewhere. Mace's tailors had to get one made, which delayed the ceremony till evening. The imp had somehow secured adequate gold from his charges to finance a big feast. Well, big in terms of people. All the inns in King's Landing had been ordered to serve food free, as well as the cheapest drink. Not the finest fare for the lords, but the small folk lapped it up. They at least were enthusiastic in singing many years when we left Baelor. It was perhaps a stroke of inspiration that made him decide that he would treat the public to his musical skills. His uncle's pale face suggested that it might not be the best move, but he was, after all, the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and needed to do his job. His uncle's flabbergasted face, once he had actually started playing, made him laugh. Aemon might have been a terrible teacher in many things, but he had taught him this art well. Looks like that fake performance on board the ship helped a lot. So much for Jon not being good at everything Rhaegar was.
Well, he had to practice it versus reading it from a book and becoming the best.
After a lot of applause from the small folk, the whole delegation retreated back to the keep, where his uncle called for the bedding, though it was barely sunset, just to embarrass me, I suppose. All of his wife's cousins swooped down upon him, as Arya smirked from a distance, and before he knew it, he was pushed inside a room with Marjorie, neither of them having 2 pieces of clothing on.
Okay.
This is it, he thought. I asked for it. Robb and Theon would laugh so much if they could see me now. You look rather beautiful tonight? Let's cut the nonsense out, shall we? I have been married once before already, and I swear that I will skin you alive, dragon or not, if I don't get my wedding night this time. So I hope
Jesus
your plans
Christ.
of securing the succession are still in place. I don't care whether you prefer men or sheep or whatever, seeing you actually joined the watch once. But I need a kid to place on the throne. Practical. I like that. Allow me to show you where my preferences lie, then. Everything else for the night is redacted.
What?
Aemon becomes Qyburn. Jon gets a Vegas-style wedding, and his bravado runs out when he's actually locked in with the girl. Now, who can tell me how many features of his grandfather Jon has inherited, other than burn them all?
That's it?
That's it. That's it.
Wait, when was this updated?
Uh,
2014. Okay.
Yeah, it hasn't been updated since the end of March 2014.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
Over 8 years.
Yep,
Hey,
8 years and
Oh,
about
let's give us a couple of laughs.
8 years, almost 5 months.
Oberyn Martell, first of his name.
Oh God.
Chapter 1. It was, the maesters would later write, all done in absentia. It had been a great tragedy, of course. The king's death and that terrible shipwreck during his visit to his family's seat. King Robert died like his parents had, and the Queen and their children, and the King's brothers as well, leaving the 7 kingdoms in an uprising. That's one way to remove the Baratheon line.
Oh yeah.
Lord Aaron, the king's hand, did his best to maintain the order. The new Lord of the Stormlands, some distant cousin, was already starting to think he would make a fine king, and every lord of the realm was assembling armies and scouting the 7 kingdoms for one of Robert's bastards to put on the throne. So he called a council. It was a very long, very complicated affair. The great lords were on it, of course, and King Robert's council, His Holiness, and 3 of the archmaesters of the citadel. In the end, it was decided that Robert's claim had come from his grandmother, the Princess Rhaella, and that the throne should pass to the next house with the closest blood relation to the Targaryens, the Martells. "This is madness," Lord Mace spluttered once they were alone.
Madness.
"How can they? They have the better claim," Jon told him quietly. "The council has decided." He was quite relieved, truth be told. Doran Martell was a sensible man by all accounts, and a good ruler. Just what the kingdom needs, he thought. But Prince Doran declined. Gently, of course, and as politely as one could be while refusing a crown. But his eyes were firm when he said that he had no wish to become king, and no desire at all to leave Dorne for a title he couldn't pass on to a daughter. He would be returning to Sunspear as soon as all was settled. He said, before lightly bringing up the subject of his younger brother, who certainly had no problems with being away from Dorne. "In fact," Prince Doran explained, "he is in Essos right now." The High Septon paled. So did Mace Tyrell. Archmaester Marwyn smiled instead. "A most gifted man," he said. "He was my acolyte once, you know." Jon wondered if perhaps it wasn't too late to propose to legitimize young Edric Storm instead, but there was no turning back now. Jon had gone to retrieve Prince Oberyn, camped with the Second Sons outside of Lys, and inform him of the council's decision, together with Marwyn, a few more envoys, and a messenger from his brother telling him that he really wasn't allowed to refuse. Not that he tried to. As one of the envoys explained later, Prince Oberyn had only frowned at the news. Then he had smiled, wide enough to be downright frightening. This, Jon thought, will not end well. Chapter 2. They passed Sunspear on their way to King's Landing, but the ship was not allowed to land. My brother might decide to disappear, Prince Doran had instructed Jon, but it was now clear that it wasn't the case. Oberyn seemed to be enjoying the prospect of being king, as much as everyone would. Perhaps, Jon thought, even more. That smile hadn't left Oberyn's face since they had left Essos, unnerving as it was. "We aren't stopping in Sunspear, Prince Oberyn." "No," Jon thought. "The king asked as soon as it was clear they would not make land. I thought my dear brother would want to see me." "It is important that we arrive as soon as possible, your grace," Jon said, as strange as it was to be calling Oberyn Martell that. Only a few months ago, his grace had been Robert, and Oberyn the man who hated him most in the whole of Westeros. "I'm getting too old for this shit," Jon thought, sighing to himself. "We have been too long without a king already." That might be the right moment to broach the subject of a queen, perhaps, but Jon didn't quite feel bold enough. Maybe he would the next time he got drunk. Really, really drunk. Oberyn smiled even wider at that. "And here I was," he said, "thinking that we have been without a king for years now. But that's what you are for, isn't it, Lord Aaron?" Next to them, Archmaester Marwyn chuckled. "Those courtly types," the older man said, "never get anything done, mark my words." "Actually," Jon cut in, feeling the beginning of a headache, Whose brilliant idea had it been to send the Archmaester with them on that trip? The Council on King's Landing is already organizing the coronation. It will all be done most swiftly. Really, Oberyn said. And will Lord Tywin be there? I'm afraid he will not, Jon said, trying to come up with a reasonable explanation. The truth was that Tywin Lannister had left King's Landing the moment the next king had been announced, and was now likely shut in Casterly Rock. He is still mourning his daughter, and Sir Jaime. Really, the new king repeated, sounding even more interested. I thought he was busy trying to hire some sellswords. He paused. Most of them are friends of mine. You should tell Lord Tywin that. Now, he continued, sparing Jon from trying to come up with a decent answer, it is a real pity that we didn't stop in Sunspear, because now we will have to stop at the Tor, or our guest would not be able to join us. Our guest? Jon repeated slowly. This was the first he heard about it. Which guest was it? Not some Dornish lord, hopefully. They were always trouble. Oh yes, Oberyn said. The Lady Eldunarya. You probably have not met her yet, but believe me, Lord Jon, she really will surprise you. This one wasn't as amusing, but it didn't really get off the ground.
Time to lose them.
Yeah. But that's the end of the stream.
Indeed it is.
Oh wow, we went 3 hours tonight.
Yep.
Yep.